Welcome to the next video lesson. In this lesson, we'll understand the construction contract life cycle. So this is brought to you by the Project Management Research Institute, and our website is at PMRI.in. What is a contract? A contract is a legally binding document, and all contract requirements must be met. And if there are any changes to the contract, all changes must be in writing and must be mutually agreed upon. So it is a legally binding document. Both the buyer and the seller are supposed to adhere to the contract. And if there is a deviation from the contractual obligations, then that is valid in the court of law. So it is a legally binding document. All contract requirements must be met, and all changes must be in writing and must be mutually agreed upon. Uh, Typically, a contract contains the scope of work, uh, the cost, the timelines, the high level timelines, milestone level, and risk allocation between the buyer and the seller or between the owner and the contractor. If there is a schedule slippage, who will bear the risk? So those things are detailed under risk allocation, and provisions for dispute resolution also are documented in the contract document. Uh, the importance of construction contracts. A well-drafted construction contract, it prevents misunderstandings, uh, because if we agree on things without a proper contract, and when the real works happens, there can be misunderstandings. So if the contract is elaborate and if it is based on a professional template, that helps both the parties to have clarity on the deliverables and their obligations. And it ensures work is delivered to the client and payments are made, and it brings accountability and clarity for both parties. Common types of contracts: we have lump sum or fixed price. In a fixed price contract, the cost risk is with the seller. That means the owner requests for a proposal or requests for a bid, and the contractors or the seller provides a fixed price or quotes for it. And if the actual cost is less than the quoted price, the contractor will make a profit. But if the actual cost is more than the quoted price, then the contractor can make a loss. So in all fixed price contract, the cost risk is with the seller or the contractor. Then cost plus fixed fee. The cost is reimbursed, and on a daily basis, a fixed fee is also provided to the contractor. So in all cost plus fixed fee contract, the cost risk is with the buyer. In this case, the seller will never make a loss. Then comes time and material. So as the work progresses based on the timesheet and the material consumption, the labor, the actuals are paid. Then guaranteed maximum price. So in this case, a guaranteed maximum price of the contract is agreed upon, and if the contract, if the project gets over without consuming the contract value, then without consuming the budget. Then whatever savings we have, that is shared between the buyer and the seller. So that is about guaranteed maximum price. But if it exceeds, the actual cost exceeds the guaranteed maximum price, then it will have to be borne by the seller. Once the contract is signed, that becomes the basis for all the schedule preparation, defining the cost baseline, and finalizing the detailed scope. So, contract is a very important document that binds together the time, cost, and the scope together. And here is the contract life cycle. The first phase in the life cycle is the discovery. So, in discovery, we do alternatives analysis. So, in the discovery state, the owner has an idea about a project and they want to go ahead with the project. So, they do an alternatives analysis. What all other options are there to achieve the same goal? That is alternatives analysis. Then they come out with a business case for the project. They conduct technical feasibility and the financial feasibility studies. They identify the risk and both strategic risk and tactical risk. They come out with a risk plan and they also analyze the risk appetite of the owner and how much risk they are willing to take. And they define a risk process. So the feasibilities are done, alternatives analysis done, risks are identified, a risk management plan is made. Based on all these things, they make a go, no go decision or a stage gate or a phase gate. And if it passes the phase gate, the project gets into the next phase where we get into the pre-award phase. That means the owner is ready to proceed. Uh, so now a lot of work needs to be done before we get into the contracting mode. So this is the pre-award phase. So inform the contract entities within the owner side. So sometimes if you want to include only selected vendors, then you inform them as well, saying that, okay, this opportunity is coming. Don't block yourself or your resources in other projects. Then you decide on the project delivery methods like build, operate, transfer, design, build, operate, transfer, all those things, which we'll discuss in the subsequent slides. Then the contracting strategy. What type of contract will be used? Sometimes based on the phase of the project, different types of contracts may be used. Then the risk management process for the project that must be defined. Then the tendering and proposal strategy. There are different types of tender like open tendering, closed tendering, uh, etc. That also we'll discuss in detail in the subsequent slides. Then draft tendering documentation. Then we must define internal evaluation criteria. Because once we get the proposals or the bids from the suppliers, how it is going to be evaluated, because this must be told to the vendors or the contractors up front so that they can fine tune the bid or proposal accordingly. Then the proposal process. First thing is bid solicitation. you invite bids from the potential uh, contractors. Then here we need to decide on the subcontracting methods as well. Uh, then the bid submission. The potential vendors submit their bid, then bid selection, bid evaluation, bid selection happens, and contract formulation also happens. That is the proposal process. And at this stage, the contract is signed by the owner and the contractor and the subcontractors. And then it moves on to the contract execution and management. So the deliverable scope must be monitored and controlled because the deliverables must be in line with what is documented in the contract. The quality requirements also must be monitored and controlled. Then interface between the packages and entities. So, for example, uh, if the air conditioning equipment has to be installed, the associated electrical work must be completed. The associated civil work must be completed. So there is a need for a lot of collaboration or interface management when multiple trades or crafts, if they have to shake hand at some point, the interface between packages and entities that becomes very important. Then safety protocols must be monitored and adhered to, and the change process must be adhered to, and we have to constantly monitor and control the key performance indicators based on cost, schedule, quality, and safety. So this should happen throughout the execution phase of the contract. Then we move on to the contract closeout phase. The contract documents to ensure all requirements have been met. So final inspection, snag list, snag closure, everything must be available, and project change orders to ensure that they have been processed or rejected. And permitting for the facility. So as per the contract, you have built the facility, and before handing it over to the owner, all the permits to operate it must be available, and very often it will be part of the contract itself. Like the contractor should get the permits for the owner to operate the asset. Uh, then completion of the operation and maintenance manuals, that is important, and the final accounting and closure of accounts, that is the last step. So a contract passes through the discovery phase, pre-award phase, proposal process, and contract execution and management, and contract closeout. Various tendering and proposal options. One form of tendering is the open tendering. That means any supplier can participate. The tendering is open to all suppliers. Then we have selective tendering. Only those who received an invitation to tender can submit a bid. That is selective tendering. So if you want to restrict the number of bids, then selective tendering is better. Then negotiated tendering. The owner organization will invite a single supplier to submit a bid intended for highly specialist contract. So if it is a seller's market, if there are only very few suppliers or contractors who can deliver a highly specialized deliverable, then we go with the negotiated tender. So we choose one single contractor, potential contractor, uh, get a invite them to tender, then they submit the bid. Then when we get into negotiation process and then finalize it. Then framework tendering. Frameworks allows owners to invite tenders from suppliers for goods and services to be executed over an extended period of time. Sometimes we call it as a running contract. So if this is if the project duration is very long, and if you want to make use of the same contractor for a similar work till the completion of the project, uh, then this is the best form of tender, framework tendering. So we close the tender once and then uh, start working with that particular contractor throughout the project. Then comes single stage tendering. When there is sufficient project information, we estimate accurately. We just say single stage tendering. That means they just submit one value for the entire project, and, and based on that, okay, the vendor will be selected. Then two-stage tendering, when there is no sufficient project information. So you say you submit a bid for the design phase, and then after the design phase, you say you submit a bid for the construction phase. Then request for proposal. If the project size is not very large, and the complexity is also very low, and if it is done by a single contractor, then always we can go with a request for proposal. Whereas if we if a consortium of companies are participating in a tender, then it is a request for bid. But if it is just one contractor and one contractor and one owner, then it becomes a request for proposal. Uh, a tendering and proposal documentation, it consists of a cover letter, an invitation to tender, the type of tender, pre-construction information for feasibility studies, the form of contract and delivery method, technology requirements for the project, tender pricing document, design drawings, and specifications. Then request for proposal document, project brief, the scope of work required and how the cost breakdown structure should be, delivery method, contract type, procurement route, interim designs, and technology requirements. If these things are drafted properly, then we get comparable proposals and bids from different vendors and contractors. Then the proposal process. The first thing is request for bid or bid solicitation. Then the subcontracting part, with the bid submission, bid selection, and contract formulation. Uh, Contract review, uh, the deliverable scope, quality requirements, interfaces between packages and entities, safety protocols, change process, and key performance indicators, pertaining to cost, schedule, quality, and safety. So all these things need to be reviewed continuously for the successful execution of the contract. Then contract closeout, contract documents to ensure all requirements have been met, project change orders to ensure they have been processed or rejected, permitting for the facility, completion of operation and maintenance manual, or we call it as built drawings, and final accounting. With that, we complete the contract closeout. So, to summarize, the contract passes through the phases of discovery, pre-award, proposal process, contract execution and management, and contract closeout. During the discovery phase, the contractor is not there. The owner does the feasibility studies, risk management, alternatives analysis, uh, all those things the owner does. The owner just have an idea and he does the technical feasibility, commercial feasibility, risk appetite, risk management, alternatives analysis, develop the business case, etc. And once they get convinced, the owner get convinced, they move on to the pre-award phase. And here you inform the contract entities, delivery methods, contracting strategies, risk management process, tendering and proposal strategy, draft tendering documentation, internal execution, internal evaluation criteria, all those things are prepared. And then we get into the proposal process. Here it is bid solicitation or request for bids, then finalize the subcontracting, then the contractor, along with the subcontractor, they submit the bids, and based on the evaluation criteria, which is already defined in the pre-award phase, we do the bid selection and the contract is formulated. And then we get into the contract execution mode and contract closeout modes. So discovery, pre-award, award, contract execution and management, and contract closeout is the typical life cycle of a contract. Thank you very much. So more details about these topics are available at PMRI.in. Thank you very much.